Hi, you. How you doing? So I'm starting a new series with this fantastic new book, Haunted Highrise. Color the crime scene, analyze the clues, and solve the mystery. It's illustrated by Alessandra Santelli. The images are fantastic, but what's even more fun is that it is filled, every page is a crime scene with a murder. There's a lot of murders that happen at this haunted high rise in New York City. And what we are going to do is solve them one by one. There are 35 mysteries, and I will be coloring them. And if you have this book, you can color along with me. But otherwise, just keep me on while you're coloring and look over once in a while and see if you can follow the clues and figure out the mystery with us. So all the clues are in the finished page. So let's get started coloring this page of the old-fashioned murder. So here we are in the haunted high-rise. This is an elegant, but shall we say cursed, skyrise, built in the Upper West Side of New York. This is where the rich and famous go to be rich and famous. Or, as is the case of the club on the first floor off the street, Club Holiday, it's where the maybe not so rich and famous go to be seen by the rich and famous. Now, this is where Richard and his wife Margot go to meet for an elegant, although let's be honest, mostly liquid lunch. So they met at Club Holiday. This is their favorite date night restaurant, and it is at the base of the haunted high-rise. Margot warned Richard that she couldn't stay long. You know, she's got other plans. She had an appointment to rush off to, but Richard wasn't daunted. So Richard ordered them their usual, some old fashions, and a few minutes later the waiter set them down. 2 old fashions, 1 for each of them. Margot finished hers quickly, while Richard chatted about his day. Margot then downed 2 more old fashions in the time it took Richard to finish his first drink. She was chugging. By the time Margot was ready to leave for her appointment, Richard had dropped dead. So the police ruled it a murder and found that both of the drinks were poisoned. So our job coming into this is to look through the scene and determine, how did the police decide that it was murder, and why did Margot not die if both drinks were poisoned? So the way this works in the Haunted High-Rise series is I am coloring it while we try to suss out who did the murder and if it even was a murder. I can already see that my auto focus needs to be turned off, but I'm starting out with alcohol markers, and we're starting at the top of the scene. So up here where I'm coloring the lights, this is a kind of a no-name alcohol marker. I have a few of these left, and I'm putting a base layer down of yellow. Now here we're looking at the upper part of the scene, and I don't really see anything on the ceiling that might indicate how this could have been a murder or how it worked out. But we do have a bar in the background. We have skyscrapers out the windows, and we're starting to see some of the witnesses / patrons / possible suspects. So there's a waiter there and a bartender in the background. The waiter looks like he's bringing more drinks to other tables. There's a man and a woman who seem very distraught, and a man sitting at a table in the background on the left there who is caught by surprise. So I don't know. Do you see anything yet that might be a clue? Now I'm going in with some Copics to do, I've decided after looking at this that I want to make this browns and peachy browns and reds and sort of a You know how some of these old established clubs are slightly outdated in their decor? That's kind of how I want this to look. Rich, stately, and slightly outdated. But so I'm going in with some Copics, and I'll be flipping and flopping the book around, but it'll give you opportunities to see different aspects of this. Here I'm basing everything. I haven't decided yet whether I want to do any pencil shading or just keep this nice and simple. So I'm just going in with some base colors. In the end, I decided to forego the pencils. I found I got enough shading that I was satisfied with my alcohol markers. So you'll get to see some of that being done. And you'll get to see me changing my mind. I make decisions and then go over it, and you can see how easy it is to change a direction if you don't like the way it's going. This is just a light peachy tan, and I'm just going to color away for a bit. So I'm going to put this on high speed here for a bit and come back when we move on to another section.
Devil in a red dress, call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang bang, got my hand on the trigger. The devil in a red dress, call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang bang, got my hand, call.
have you been able to find any clues yet? What I'm doing here now is adding some shading. So I started with the yellow as a base because it's a light. I wanted to make it look like it was glowing. And now I'm adding, I think it's like a tan, a light. Oh, it's warm 3. It's a gray. It's a warm gray. Trying to give it that kind of a greenish glow. The light gray that I'm coloring with on top of the yellow makes a greenish type of gray. And that's what I'm going for, is this sort of like, this whole palette of this kind of grays and greens and tans and peaches. But just to give the illusion that it's darker on the top than it is on the bottom. There's a lot of ways that you can give the illusion of a glow. One of my favorite with alcohol markers is to color the yellow first and then put color on top of it. And it works out pretty well. What I'm doing now is putting another dark shade on top, a darker gray, and just using that flicking motion, that technique that kind of helps blend it. Now, this is really absorbent paper. It's super absorbent. So getting a good blend on absorbent paper is very hard because the alcohol ink or water-based ink or whatever you're using will soak in quickly and dry quickly. So it's very hard to blend. However, I go back in with the yellow and try to get that blend better. Now, using my very fancy microphone, you may be able to hear Jack snoring more prominently or less prominently. I'm not sure. But if you hear some heavy breathing in the background, it's Jack. So now I'm using the yellow to try to blend some of that back in. Again, the blending's not going to be as good as if it were on a lesser porous paper and we could blend easier. But I'm using the same color yellow that I based with, and I quickly see that, that is not giving me the shading I want. So I bring in a darker yellow so that I can really get some shading in that, kind of that transition between that top dark part and the hanging lighter part. So that's what I'm doing here, is adding some shading. Now, if we remember, Margot and Richard went to the same restaurant for lunch. They drank the same drinks brought by the same waiter. Margot had 3 in the time that Richard had 1, and Richard died, and Margot did not. So, do we have any clues yet? I'm curious what you're thinking. So there's a couple of ground rules, well, really just one, for this series, and that is, please do not put the answer if you figured it out in the comments, because when people click on these videos, the top couple of comments are easily visible, and I don't want you to give away the game. But if while I'm coloring this, you notice some clues that lead you to a possible solution, and you think you've got it, I will be revealing the answer at the end of this video. If you guessed it sometime during the coloring, put a thumbs up in the comments section. Just don't give away the answer, because other folks want to watch this and try to figure it out on their own, okay? So put a thumbs up in your comment, or just a thumbs up, just to let me know if you figured it out. Because we are now moving further down in the drawing, and I'm working on the curtains right now. But another witness comes into view, and that's on the far left. There's a woman holding her hand to her mouth. She's in a dress. So she also is witnessed the murder. So now I think we have, and we see Margot here. Margot right in the foreground. So I think we have all of the people in the room now who are potential suspects. And we are starting to see the furniture. This kind of stuffed, looks like leather or possible fabric furniture. We're seeing, with my coloring, we're now starting to see some definition take place in the bar. I have colored the yellow of the backlighting in the liquor cases there. So we're seeing bottles of liquor. We're seeing some bottles also on the windowsill, and there's some around the bartender who's mixing another drink right now. So there's a clear picture of what we've got so far. So I'm going to color in the skyscrapers now. They're not part of the scene. I can't see as how they could be part of the murder scene. So I'm not spending a lot of time there. I'm mostly just coloring them in various shades of gray, just to get them done. I think at one point I start to try to put yellow in a window, and I decided it was too much work for those teeny tiny windows and completely unnecessary. It's more important what's happening inside this room where the crime actually happened. Now, in this book, there are red herrings that are intentionally planted. A red herring being an idiom for something that is told to you or given to you or shown to you that tries to throw you off the path to the right answer. So it could be something that's in the accounting or something that's in the picture that is trying to lead you to the wrong conclusion. So let's review the accounting again. The accounting is that Robert invites Margot to lunch and she agrees, but she says she has a limited amount of time. She has to go somewhere. Robert orders the drinks. The waiter brings the drinks, and there's just one waiter in the room and one bartender. The drinks come, Margot downs hers. Richard drinks his very slowly. Margot ends up ordering more, and she drinks 3 drinks to Richard's 1 drink. Now, when he dies, the police pronounce them both having drunk poison drinks. But for some reason, Margot did not die. Robert was unlucky in drinking his drink. So why wasn't Margot poisoned as well? So here we are moving down into the floor, and it's drawn in a checkerboard fashion, so I'm putting in a checkerboard. I thought maybe black and brown would work. In the end, the brown is sort of the wrong shade. It's a cool shade, kind of, and everything else is warm. So and then I put the black there, and I'm out of my Copic black. I have been waiting for refills to show up on Amazon, but the black was just never showing up. So I ordered it from actually an Oregon-based art store up near Portland, and they had it for the same price as the cheapest I could get on Amazon. So they are called the Merry Artist. Mary spelled with an I, and it's all one word, Merry Artist. They've got really good prices on Copic, both pens and refills. And right now, talking January 2025, they have 10% off of $50 worth of Copic. So I ended up getting some black ink that's coming. So when I do the black, I use a black that is from just some random no names that are left over. Just trying to use them up. It's funny how these cheap no name brands last so long. I've noticed that. Some of you are trying to get rid of old markers, and they just go and go. Too bad the ink is terrible, and everything else is terrible about them. But and you can't buy them again because they go out of stock or disappear or get renamed or something. Anywho, I am making these checkers black and brown. It's my first introduction of black into the picture. And once it's done, it's done. I was okay with it. I'm wanting this, to look a little outdated anyway, so, and a little off. Um, so it kind of works for that. And so I end up adding more black in some of the clothing later to, give that black on the floor some reason for being there. So I'm just coloring in these checkerboards now. You can see the whole bottom of the page now, which I think this is about the first time we've had really good views of the whole bottom. And here we see Margot with her hands to her mouth, sitting at the table. She has her 3 glasses upright, full of ice, and no drink in them. Looks like she's downed them, like the account said. There's poor Richard's leg, or Robert. Is it Robert? Richard. I've been saying Robert. It's Richard. Poor Richard's leg. There he is. He's dead. His hat's on the table. There's a light on the table. And I think for a second there we see, yep, there's his drink. And his ice and the last of his liquids in this glass are spilled. Presumably when he died, he toppled over his glass and what was left in it spilled onto the table. So here we are. We're starting on the furniture, and I'm using a couple of different burgundies and reds. I kind of go back and forth with my ideas on this because one of my pens actually runs out of ink, and I realize I don't have a refill for that particular color, which hence with that and my black issue, which is why I went on to Merry Artist, and I was able to find and order some more refills. But my idea was to make them very dark with a slightly different shade to parts of it. So I'm trying, first I started with a deep red chair and then the burgundy seat cushions. And I wanted it to be a subtle difference. Again, the porous paper is not helping me here. It's soaking in. I start trying some different reds and switching around. In the end, I do like what I end up doing. But, you'll see it evolve as it comes along. So back here is the gentleman who is drinking with his lady friend. They both seem slightly concerned. And they're sitting in, it looks like the seating arrangements are the same for everyone. Nobody's up at the bar. So how is your guessing going? Have you come up with some ideas? Have you noticed some clues? I happen to love true crime. In fact, I was listening to true crime while I was coloring this. And I figured it out fairly quickly, but only because I've seen this done in true crime, where people actually did this crime. So it kind of triggered that memory, and I was like, oh yeah. Again, don't put it in the comments, please. Just put a thumbs up if you figured it out. At the end, I will read to you the solution, and you can see how close you were. So I've decided to do the legs brown. Again, I picked a reddish brown, which is the reddish brown I probably wanted to use on the floor, but I used that cool brown instead. So now I'm at liberty to use the reddish brown in other places. We only have so many browns. It seems like so many of our coloring books require browns, a lot of browns. And then I chose to make this palette really brown and outdated. So I was using every brown I had. And if I would have kept the palette, a warm palette all the way through, including the floor, it would have been, I think, pretty effective. But, again, this is a game we're playing. This isn't an piece of artwork I'm trying to produce. So I'm going to come back in and start thinking about the rest of the bar and their clothing. Still using Copics. This is a favorite brown of mine, this really, really dark, rich chocolate brown. It's the brown I think I used for the floor. I wasn't certain, and there was some more floor back there to color. So then I just ended up, I was running out of browns, like I say, so I just ended up doing the face of the bar there in this cocoa brown. There are some bar stools behind these characters, and I get confused on what's a bar stool and what's the bar, but I end up pulling out some gel pens. And just like acrylic, gel pens go over almost everything. So I'm able to bring back the chairs back in that I accidentally colored over. Jack is still snoring away. So over here, there's some drinks that are kept separate from the others. They're kind of in a case in the front. I'm going to leave you here just to watch the coloring and enjoy your own coloring as well if you've already figured it out. But if you haven't figured out the answer yet, now that I'm at the middle and the bottom of the page, you are seeing the entire scene. So just keep looking through the scene and see if you can figure out how Richard died. Okay, so I did a little bit with my Languo gel pens. I started working with those. Um, I'm not sure I should have outlined the ice cubes yet. I was playing around with the gray because I still need to actually color those glasses. And actually, the glasses are probably the worst part of this page when I finally get done. But here I'm trying a brighter red on the backs and upper part of those sofas, and then putting some darker violet reds on the sofa to try to give more of a sense of lighting, maybe lighting it up, or wear and tear making the leather lighter. So I put the red on first, the bright red, then I going downwards, flicking downwards, then I put the violet darker red flicking upwards, and then I bring the brighter red in, and I realize the ink is mostly not blending so much as it's soaking into the paper, but this paper is what it is. So I'm putting the darkest violet red I've got on the sides and arms and seats, things like that. Well, maybe just on the sides. I think the seats I still use the violet red, the other one. The whole plan is to make them look like, they're darker on this side, a little bit more pinky red we're on the cushions and the backing, and then some light play there on the top. But without being able to blend easily, I could have blended more. This is why I thought about using pencil finish, because I could really make these blends look good with pencil. I normally don't have to use pencil to make blends look good, but again, the paper. But at the end of the day, I decided it was enough. It was good enough. This is a game we're playing. And actually, I enjoy the artwork. This book is an actual artist. Let me see. It is Alessandra Santelli. So these even aren't robot AI stolen artwork. This is actual artists who did this. So I'm really thrilled. I found this book at Walmart when I was again there with my client who likes to shop there. And whenever she doesn't need me, I kind of wander off and go look and see what coloring books they've got. And I've seen this one actually on Amazon and various places, but hadn't thought to pick it up. And when I was in Amazon, I was able to open it and look at it and realized I loved the artwork. I love the drawings, and I love the whole premise of it and how fun it would be to do this game with you all. So I colored some off camera here and added some color to the table, worked on that light a little bit. It's not great. You see me go with my hand. Yeah, those glasses aren't great. I had an idea in mind that didn't quite work out. So then I went over it with white, and now it's really, I don't know if they even look like glasses anymore, but you've seen them for a while now, so you remember what they look like. Here's the hat. I'm going in with, I used black Sakura glaze on the hat band and then regular black alcohol marker on the hat itself. A trick I learned from a couple of you, that it makes, the blacks look different. It makes the alcohol ink black looks matte and the Sakura looks really dark and rich and glossy. So then I decided the scene needed more black. Now I gave the woman gasping there in the background black pants. And a kind of a soft tan shirt. And here pretty quick, I'm going to turn the light off so that you can see it without the bright light on, because you can see all the pores of the paper and the color doesn't really look accurate with this bright light. I leave it off for a little bit, but I find it hard to see because it's nighttime and I had to turn it back on to do the coloring. But I'll turn off the light so that I tried a couple different lightings here. Isn't that pretty? That's a lot better. Now you can see what it really looks like. It looks good, doesn't it? Beautiful. But that was actually quite dark and I could not see what I was coloring, so I had to turn the light back on again. But this is actually what the picture looks like. So even though the paper is quite porous, it does make for, a really pretty page. So I had to turn the lights back on, and I'm sorry. I am using black Sakura glaze for his pants to make his pants a nice dark shiny black. And so I guess that looks kind of like he's got pleather pants on. Didn't work as well in his pants as it did in the hat of Richard. But we see Richard's legs there. We see Margot gasping in horror. So I'm going to work some on Richard's pants and everyone else's clothes, and leave you we're almost done. So I'm going to leave you to looking for clues and see if you can figure out why it is that Richard died and Margot did not. All right, so it's done. I finished it off screen, and here it is in real time. Have you figured it out yet? Do you see any clues that might let you in on how Richard died and Margot did not? We've got all the people there, all sort of focused on the horror in front of them. There's Margot. And there's Richard and the glasses that had been poisoned. How could Margot drink 3 and Richard 1? And Margot survived and Richard died. All right, we're going to be revealing the answer here pretty soon. So if you don't have it yet, you might want to pause and think about it some more. unless you're ready for the big reveal, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn to the answers in the back, and we're going to figure out how it is that Richard died and how the cops determined that this was a murder and who did it. Here we go. I'm going to reveal the answer, so pause it now if you don't want to know. We're on an old-fashioned murder. The poison was in the ice. Did you figure it out? Margot, knowing that it would alleviate some suspicion, drank her old-fashioned too quickly for the ice to melt. Richard talked for so long that he allowed the poisoned ice to fully melt and do its dirty work. Margot was found guilty of murder with a little help from her lover, the waiter, the one who brought the drinks. Did you figure it out? I figured out it was the ice right away, but I didn't count on the waiter being the lover, the one who brought the ice. So there it is. Her glasses are full of ice. She downed them and the ice didn't melt. But look, he's only got a couple of ice cubes and they're melty. So he drank the poison. She ended up escaping the poison because her ice didn't melt. So I'm glad you liked this. I hope you liked this. And if you did, I'm going to be going through this book. This was the first one, An Old-Fashioned Murder. So stay tuned for the next in our Haunted Highrise coloring book. All right, you all have a great day. Love you very, very much. Bye.